All right, everyone. Let's see. Okay, looks like we're live. All right, welcome everyone to another open discussion and various topics. Let's open up with reciting the prayer for spiritual workers. And then we'll move into our Q&A portion. Prayer for spiritual workers. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their limitations, would smite me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their weakness, would not heed me. Almighty God, I bless all those who, because of their ignorance, would defile you through me. And I ask, Almighty God, O wondrous power, that your strength may be given to me now, so that I might be fortified by this, so that I might go forward bravely into the world, and despite reception, send forth my love of thee throughout all races of man. Almighty God, give me the power and strength to rise above my karmic weakness, the deficiencies in the pattern of my evolution, so that I might evolve and become stronger, I, and even stronger in thy everlasting light. God, thy will be done. All right, welcome everyone to another open discussion and various topics, class 114. As per usual, feel free to post any questions or comments you have on the chat. If you're joining us via YouTube, you can use the chat there. Or if you're also joining us via Zoom, you can use the raise hand feature to ask your question audibly, or you can also post questions in the chat as well. After our Q&A session, we will continue reviewing the Metaphysics 101 handout notes from a class Nehemiah gave a decade ago. And that class is available on our YouTube channel. If you go to the playlist, you can see Metaphysics 101. It's 2 lectures. It's actually split across a couple of playlists. There's one called Metaphysics 101, which is where these notes are taken from. And then there's another playlist called Beginner's Series in Metaphysics, which we have done in partnership with another advanced student. His name's Bernard Johnson, Mr. Bernard Johnson. So we'll be looking at those 2 series over the next couple of weeks, as well as several other of the earlier series that were given by Nehemiah and sometimes a guest lecture. So let me jump to YouTube really quick. So after we finish these notes, we'll do a bit of an in-depth study of these earlier lectures. So one here, Metaphysics 101, this playlist is 2 videos in that playlist. We'll also look at the Metaphysical Lecture Series for beginners. And we'll look at the Tantra Yoga Lecture Series. And then we'll go through, not all of them, but we'll select several of the earlier lecture series, review that material. Again, I won't play, the lectures over. You can go back and watch them, but I'll pull out some extracts and pull out some quotes. And I'll also try to provide updated diagrams as well as the notes if I can find them for those earlier lectures or PowerPoint presentations that were used, and provide that in the folder for everyone to download and to study as we review some of these earlier lectures. So the first, I think 3 we'll look at is Metaphysics 101, Metaphysical Lecture Series for beginners, and the Tantra Yoga Lecture Series. And then after that, we'll take on a few more as we progress throughout the year. Okay, but you can also go back and review those series. As I was going through the Metaphysics 101, those 2 videos, there it was an error where the audio and video tracks were not synchronized. So maybe I can figure out a way to clean that up. I don't think we still have those original video files. But what I have been doing is working on producing a transcript. So hopefully that'll help, because I think the video is maybe that as it progresses, it gets like a second, 2 seconds, a few seconds, and sometimes like several seconds ahead of the audio. So I think there are some people made comments it's difficult trying to follow along. So to try and help remedy that, I'm transcribing both of those videos. And whenever I see errors or mistakes like that from the earlier videos, I'll try and do something to help compensate for it. But hopefully, along with the transcript and additional diagrams, updated diagrams and presentations, it'll help all of us to better understand the information that was given in these earlier lectures and in future lectures. Okay. So do we have any questions or comments? Actually, we do. There were a couple of questions emailed to us. Let me open that. The first question, this is emailed to us by Jack, or from Jack, or by Jack. I have heard many times that each chakra is a realm of consciousness. Can you remember which lecture Dr. King says that in? He says that in several lectures, actually. And can you explain what that means, realm of consciousness? Okay.
Yeah. Hello. Yeah, he says that in several, in dozens of his lectures. I think when he goes into the levels of consciousness, he explains it, and in man's mind, he further explains it. And then also in the lecture tape, the psychic centers, he goes into it. Also, he briefly goes into it with concentration, contemplation, meditation. So, and then he refers us to the Serpent Power book by Arthur Evelyn.
And can you briefly explain what that means, the chakra is a realm of consciousness?
Yeah, it's simple to understand today, because today people are aware of the internet. They're aware of the electronic magnetic spectrum. They radiate from the sun and all the suns of the galaxy. So it's simple to understand. It's actually rays of energy, and those rays of energy are all energy can't exist without mind. So the rays of energy creates a realm of consciousness, or a transmission point from point A to point B, or point whatever. So what happens is the major chakras within our body tap into those rays of consciousness, the rays of mind and energy. And each one of those rays of minds and energy, they have they create a major realm of existence. And within that major realm of existence, there's multiple realms of existence, or multiple realms of consciousness. Now, in simple language, back almost 120 years ago, the yogis, or the theosophical teachers and yogis, explained it, saying that when you have a ray of vital energy and mental energy intersect several times, then you have a level of consciousness. So, and they describe the chakras as vortex centers of mind energy and vital energy intersecting, creating a vortex which operates as realms of consciousness. So as simple as that. And when you look at our existence, we consist of multiple levels of energy and multiple levels of mind, and that creates consciousness. So that's, in simple language, that's what it is. I hope that's understandable.
Okay. And the next question. Okay, this is a bit of a long one. As karma acts on reincarnation, why isn't the world improving? If those who do good deeds are given greater strength, while those who go against the law are involved, or even have their consciousness divided up upon rebirth, then why aren't we improving as a race?
I don't know. I think we are improving. I think it may seem glim or dim right now, but I think we are improving. So, and another thing you got to realize too, that people, as life streams reincarnate into the physical realm and reincarnate into the astral, etheric, or mental realms, they go to multiple levels of existence. Now, Dr. King expressed it probably the best I heard so far. He described karma as a pressure towards conformity. And he also explained to us that the more good you do, or the more advanced you are mentally, spiritually, and even physically, it's hard for you to be reborn back on this earth, because you have to be born at an exact time, and karma dictates that time. And the more evil you are, it takes a long time for you to be reborn here too. You know, so you have to look at that. That's probably why you have cycles of some of these evil generals or whatever that cause great massive killings. They not here every day. I mean, decades go between them, and it's rare that you have a lot of them at once. But I think it's working, because the more advanced you are, the higher the higher the realm you go to. Now, of course, most of the population on Earth is in the lower astral realms, so that speaks volumes there. So I mean, but we still have a slow and steady progress towards enlightenment. And one of the great secrets Dr. King told us, well, it really wasn't a secret, it was right here among us, is that he also described karma as service. And he said, the more service you do, and the more spiritual missions you take on, the quicker you will get back here to this physical plane to do what? To continue those missions. So that's, that's one way to accelerate your presence here on the physical plane in order to help advance mankind. And that's through service. You take on spiritual service, and you won't have to stay so long on the other side. If your mission is have a wide net to catch and help people, that you can be reincarnated here much quicker in order to do a greater service to mankind. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah.
Do you remember Dr. King saying that, Dwayne? Where he described, if you have a mission, that you will come back here quicker to finish it. And
Yes, I do remember him saying that. The exact lecture, probably common reincarnation, or
he made references to it when he was doing Operation Starlight, and they were, I think they were having some difficulty or trapped on the where they had got snowed in on one of the mountains. And some of the members there was they were worried, and so I think somebody even asked him that time, and he told them, even if we die, we'll come back quick to finish this. So
next question. What are the metaphysical implications of baptism?
there are several, but I'm gonna there's a which I really don't recommend a lot of his books, but he goes into that more. I mean, he goes into the ceremonies of Christianity, and that's Charles Leadbeater. He has a book on the ceremonies. I can't remember the exact name of it. You remember the exact name of it? Is it Sacrament?
I don't know. I haven't read much of Leadbeater.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But you know, water is an energy, and it's a cleansing energy. It's an energy of purification. So it's an energy that gives life, and it's an energy that circulates through the whole body. So one of the reasons for using that type of so-called physical energy is that it represents physical psychic energy on the physical plane. So if you cleanse yourself with water, then you can help cleanse the perspective of your mind and physical body, because it works on multiple levels of consciousness. So that's why when you get dehydrated, you lose consciousness, or you begin to become delirious, and therefore you lose the vitality. You cannot control the vitality of the body, the physical body or the mind, and you exit and enter into the astral or mental or etheric realms. So that's the power of water. That's one of the because it's highly connected to the etheric element of the Mahabhutas. So that's why they use water as a purification or psychic instrument in the physical world. That's my understanding of it. Let me look up that book and see which, because he gives several different. If you're really into that, he gives several different. He gives a lot of different ceremonies.
Mhm.
I think we have like 57 of his books in our library, either books or lectures.
Really? For Leadbeater, that many?
Huh?
For Leadbeater, that many?
Yeah. He was a theosophical teacher.
Yeah. Okay. And final.
I can't find it, but I if you email me, Jack asked that question.
Yes.
If you email me, I'll send you the book.
Yeah, it's not on the website, or at least nothing looks like it. Astral plane, chakras, power, and use of thought, man, visible and invisible. Reality of the astral planes, vegetarianism and occultism, thought forms, the masters in the path of science. Is it the science of the sacraments?
Yeah, Science of the Sacraments. That's what it is. It's on the website there.
It's on the website, yes.
Yeah, so he can download it from the website.
And final question from Jack. In one transmission, Mars Sector 6 began with "This is Mars." And Dr. King speculated that he could mean just that Mars Sector 6 is an aspect of the planet Mars. If Saturnians are capable of dividing into 3,000 plus aspects, Logi must be capable of greater feats. Could some people be aspects of Terra?
Well, understand this, that the mystic teachings tell us that the logos of this earth creates or not creates, but modifies vital and mind energy in order to formulate the mental realms of this earth. And then in order to allow us to operate within the realms of the Mother Earth, the logos of this earth gives us a part of herself. Okay? So that part of her that we have within us is the Kundalini. Now, Dr. King told us the only reason why we're here on this earth is to do what?
Is to ascend.
No, he described it in detail. He said the only reason why you're here on this earth is to
master the Kundalini.
Master the power of Kundalini, to control the power of Kundalini up and down your spine. He also told us that this Kundalini power, while we're on earth, came from the logos of the earth. So all our mental body, all the materials of our mental bodies, our etheric bodies, our astral body, the energy formation, and the physical body, all of that came from, on this earth, came from the Mother Earth. When you leave this earth and have to go to another planet, then the other planets, at least in this solar system, they have evolved to the level where they consciously go to the logos of the earth, and they are born through the logos of the earth. And that helps them to move easily throughout the realms of that planet. So someone go to Mars to live as a human, as a intelligence, they enter Mars through the logos of the earth. Now, the Bible spoke about this, the Vedas spoke about this, the Torah spoke about this. Most Bibles spoke about this, where when they describe the man's beginning, they describe man being molded from where? From earth, right?
Yeah, from the dirt.
Yes. So that that meant, if you translate that, that meant that man, the first man, came through the logos of the earth. He was born through the logos of the earth. The intelligence of this earth gave birth to the earth. The same way God spoke the word, and the word came down through the lords of creation, and the lords of creation spoke the word, and the word came down through the galaxies, the lords of the galaxies, and the galaxy spoke the word, and then the word came down through the sun, and the sun spoke the words, and created the solar system. And then each planet spoke the word and created life on those planets. And that word is the creative, mental, and physical energy that was brought about, that brought about life in all different forms, of life, which is tremendous. It's on the is so all of us are aspects of the logos of this earth, and anyone on any planet is aspects of that planet. At the same time, we're also aspects of the sun, of the solar system, of the galaxy, of the universe, because it all trickled down in order to, the energy is being used from the absolute. So, and the famous lecture, or not lecture, transmission, was called the one energy.
Yes.
So right there, society, yes. And that one energy is one life, and that one life is God. So if we are aspects of God, we're also aspects of Earth. We're also aspects of the sun. We're also aspects of the galaxy and the universe. So I hope everyone, I hope that's not confusing, but I mean, that's the teachings that we're taught, that we are taught through mysticism.
Was that a transmission given by Saturnian? And then Dr. King expanded on it in the lecture?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
So you got to remember that it takes over 100 trillion cells to make a physical body, a human body works. So that's science out of this world, and what gives us life? Everything in our body, we can search the earth and find those elements in the earth. So what does that tell us? I think it's 150 trillion cells. So what does that tell us? That tells us that we are aspects of the earth. You can find copper in our body. You can find almost every
element.
Every element on a periodic chart in our body somewhere. So elements that they haven't even begun to realize. So we are, we are aspects of the logos of Earth, of Terra. The Mother Earth have born us. We came from the Mother Earth in order to exist in this realm of existence. And that's one of the reasons why the great masters that come to this earth, that's one of the reasons they go through the karmic motion in order to be born through the woman. When they come here, they incarnate into the psyche of this earth because they follow the laws. And then those that want to exist on the higher realms, they come through the Mother Earth through another way, and then they live in the higher realms in order to help bring about karmic balance, or they get permission to come here in the aspect that they come here in. But then their time is limited when they do that as well. As the Lord Senekamara did for 18,600,000 years. That was his time limit here.
Yeah, Jack, for more physics began with this is Mars, and Dr. speculated that he could mean just that. Yeah, very often, and I think mainly because of time constraints, Dr. George King would give a seemingly quick and short answer, but there's a lot embedded in it. And so basically inviting us to go back and research more and dig into it deeper. And so a couple of sources came to mind reading your question, as Nima was talking about, the lecture, Four Aspects of Creation, as well as this is the Logos of Earth, an example where Dr. George King communicated directly with the Logos of Earth. And also the Day the Gods Came, Prime Initiation of Earth. If you read in that, you will see instances where the permission to commence certain aspects of the operation was requested directly from the Logos of Earth, and either the Logos directly responded or one of the ineffable protect, was it Lord Protector of the Flame? Is that the exact? I forgot their exact title. Either they would respond on behalf of the Mother Earth, or she would respond directly. So there are instances where in Ethereal teachings where the logi or the logos of a planet will respond through a highly advanced being. So I invite you to go back and look at, review those, so through those teachings and several others. But I know specifically, this is the Logos of Earth. Dr. George King communicates directly with the Logos of Earth. And in the Day that Gods Came, there are instances where the Loki or an agent on her behalf respond to in the transmissions back and forth. I think those are all the questions he sent in. Are there any other questions or comments from the audience? Oh, and Nehemiah mentioned the Senate Kumara. That's another topic that was touched in the earlier lectures. Let me see. I know it was
the cosmic plan.
Yeah, the cosmic plan. I mean, specifically in your earlier lectures, there was a study of the theosophical teachings you had done. I don't know if that was recorded, because I think that was one of the first few ones I attended. There was where you talk about the history of Earth and the history of humanity. What series did I put that in?
There was a diagram. I gave a diagram for that, right?
With it, there's several timelines you had created of cosmic timeline, and then down to humanity's timeline from Maldek to the different civilizations that were here on Earth. Lecture series did I put? I'll look for it, but I know we have it. I know it's one of the earlier lecture series. It may have been so jumbled up that I made it private, and it's not publicly available on the channel, but I'll look for it. If anybody's interested in that, in our collection of the IMKC collection of handouts, there are several timelines in that, and there are classes that go along with those timelines. I'm not exactly sure. I'm looking through the playlist right now, and I don't remember which lecture series.
If you had a diagram, you can pull it up. The name of the class might be on there.
Okay, try that.
Do that. There was one that we talked about, the timetables, the yokes.
Yes, the yokes.
And then there was another one that we talked about, the cosmic masters, or what they call bodhisattvas that came to earth that we know of. There's many that came that we did not know of.
They put this up. So here's the IMKC collection of classroom lecture diagrams. After revealing your history, timeline of Mother Earth, understanding time on Earth, understanding interaction. You know, there's diagrams like this one. A little history and knowledge of the Mother Earth. And then there was one that actually looked at the yogas.
Is it in this? I don't know if it's in there.
Flag pointing to the Earth. This is one specifically on July the 8th. One on the yugas. There was one timeline one. Understand the cycles, periods of human development. It talks about how we're currently in the Kali Yuga. What's this series? I remember this one. This is from a class.
Yeah.
We've done this one a couple classes. This is actually on a printed handout. I have this printed. This is the one you did on the avatars that came to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and this is a good one too. This was part of a lecture series, Humanities History, and it talked about all the steps and the changes the Mother Earth had to make in order to take us upon her back from the destruction of Maldek, because the astral realms were not here, were not present on the Mother Earth. I think the life forms, which is Adamic man, there that were here inhabiting the Earth at that time, their base of the spine was the heart center. And so those lower realms, solar plexus, sex, and base center, were not present on the Earth. And so the Mother Earth had to involve herself to create those realms to allow us to exist here. So in this lecture series, so when you listen to lectures, when Dr. George King talks about the prime initiation of Earth, you know, he talks about how when he thinks about everything that the Mother Earth has to do, it makes him want to weep. You know, he doesn't, at least not to my knowledge, in a lecture, go into great detail into all the things the Mother Earth had to do in order to provide for us to be here. And so in lectures like this one, you know, we hear Dr. King say it makes him want to weep, and it may not mean that much to us because we don't know what the Mother Earth had to go through. So in a lecture series like this one, where, you know, Nehemiah actually goes in great detail of what karma and the Mother Earth had to take upon herself in order to allow us to exist here, it instills within us a deeper appreciation of the sacrifice the Mother Earth made, and allows us to at least a little bit more, begin to understand the significance of the primary initiation of Earth. Now, some of you may not have any idea what I'm talking about, but the prime initiation of Earth was an event that took place on July the 8th, 1964, which marked the half-life, if I'm correct, of the Mother Earth, and in an event in which she was given tremendous amount of energy, more energy than she's ever received since her initiation as a planet. And that energy she currently holds in abeyance until, and slowly being released by her, and thereby allowing her to not only return to the state in which she was before taking on humanity, but to evolve even higher. But that's a very poor description of the July 8th. It's a very significant event. In fact, it's and you look at the Islamic calendar, it's our single greatest commemoration we have each year, and it marks our actual year. So July 8th for us is like January 1st with your society. Anyway, go back. I would invite you to review material on July the 8th, prime initiation of Earth, as well as look at the several lectures and classes that Nehemiah gave, specifically relating to the planet Earth. He also mentions, if you listen closely, the changes that not only the Mother Earth had to take on, but the solar system as a whole. One example of that is the planet Saturn. By all rights, it can move on to the next phase of its evolution, but chose to remain for an additional incarnation to be of service, not just to the Earth, but to all the planets and solar system and beyond. So do listen to, go back, look at those lectures, and as you're studying the prime initiation, keep in mind these classes and this material, the changes the Earth had to make. I really hope that I recorded those classes, because they were really good classes that at the time, at least for myself, didn't sink in as deep. But as the years went on and I got more familiar with teaching society, and even now, I can gain more and more appreciation for it. And I'm sure for decades to come, the same will be true. I don't remember what lecture series it's in, so let me look for it, and then next week I'll come back and with those videos, as well as the direct resources from the society. I know it's the Day the Gods Came, definitely. Both the text, the transmissions, and the lectures around them. Visit Logos of Earth. It's a really good one. And there's several other lectures too, where he goes into blue water. Yeah. And others. So next week, I'll try to keep that in mind. Next week I'll come back and we'll I'll list those sources, those videos and sources. Any other questions? Or do you want to add or say anything, Nehemiah? We're moving to.
No, this is I think it was this and those other ones up above where we talked about the timeline too. And we talked about the cosmic masters that came. Yeah, it was that. This was in that lecture.
Mm-hmm.
I think all this came from the secret doctrines, when we went over the secret doctrines.
Yeah, it did, but I don't think I was recording at that time, because I remember.
So I think we recorded, because we did it more than once. I think we recorded.
Yeah, that's true.
One. The first one we didn't record. Go up a little bit more. It's to the timeline.
This one, you guys.
Yeah, this one, yeah. I think we
Mhm.
talked about it in this as well.
Let's see. And then also in the lecture series, Nehemiah goes into all various different great cosmic agencies that had to come in and assist the Mother Earth with. You know, there's just so much that had to be done just to create the space to allow us to continue on our evolution after the destruction of Maldek. You know, it's and continue to have to be done. And then you look at for example, the spiritual hierarchy of the Great White Brotherhood. You know, a great part of their mission in remaining here on Earth is to allow us to remain here on Earth. And Nehemiah and Dr. George King talk about that quite a bit in their lectures. So
I see James made a comment in the chats online on the YouTube. I think I gave a class many years ago on Hinduism or Tantra. I think it was Tantra. It was Tantra. And in Tantra yoga, because Tantra is very popular over here in the United States, but in Tantra yoga, there's a evil part of Tantra, and there's a very spiritual and holy part of Tantra. And with Christianity, I hate to say it, that there's an evil part of Christianity or a false part. I think that's the word I use, false, with Tantra and positive with Tantra. And there's a false part of Christianity and positive side of Christianity. So that's how you have to look at it. Don't let it deter you, because everyone's on their journey towards perfection. And sometimes people have to go through the motion of doing of purging themselves of evil thoughts and feelings and whatever. And unfortunately, it plays out in most religions. And, you know, people use the religion as a vehicle in order to play out their evil, or purge themselves of the evil, to make themselves think they're doing good. But when you look at life and you look at mathematics is the laws of karma. And in mathematics, it tells us that if I multiply a negative number times a negative number, then something positive comes from it. So it is with people's lives. People who compound themselves with ridiculing and putting down other people and doing all those negative things, it comes to an end once they meet. Once all they have multiplied, all that negativity have multiplied, then the law of karma comes in and says, stop, everything must be positive going forward. So that's how you got to look at that. You know, a positive thing happened in their life. And sometimes we may look at it as tragic, but it's, you know, on a greater scale, it's positive. It could be that person locked up. It could be that person is strike down for something. It could be, I mean, like they fall down with illness, or they may have to transition from this life and be reborn multiple times to experience something, or lack of something in order to move from that negative space, that negative mental space. But in some future life, if that happened, they will move from that. The same way we realize that fire will burn the flesh off our body, and we know how to deal with fire after we have that experience, if we have to have that experience. So it's same thing with all knowledge, all things. People come to realize that they cannot do evil to the next person, or even think evil to the next person. They have to come to that conclusion. So that's how you have to look at it, because even in these mystic teachings, you find people use them to do the same thing that that other false religions do. So there's always a positive side and a false side, or in all these different religious or spiritual teachings. Okay.
There's like another comment here by AG. Thank you, AG. Appreciate it. And welcome from India. Okay. All right, there's no other questions. Let us continue with our review of the Metaphysics 101 document. Swap to that really quick. Hopefully everybody can see that. Let me zoom in a bit. So last time we reviewed, actually in this Metaphysics 101, we're looking at the 11 forms. We've outlined the 11 systems of yoga. And last time we discussed Hatha Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Raja Yoga, and its 8 limbs being Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. We looked at Jnana Yoga, Kriya Yoga, Mantra, and Mudra Yoga, and we left off at we finished off Mudra, and today we will pick up with Kundalini and finish off with Laya and Tantra. Page 11. 11, okay. So again, sorry, even though I'm reading through documents, do feel free to interject with any questions or comments you have, and we'll address those for you. How do I unpin this? Never mind. Sorry, so Kundalini Yoga. This is the yoga for awakening the consciousness to a higher awareness. Kundalini is the vehicle of consciousness for the soul. It is the dormant aspect of the soul's consciousness wrapped into gross material and lower mental auric substance. Kundalini Yoga's main focus is awakening the dormant part of the Kundalini power and to push it up the Brahma Nadi within Shumna, where the highest aspect of the soul resides untouched. Kundalini Yoga uses Hatha, bhakti, karma, raja, and kriya yoga, along with pranayama, mantra, and all types of mudras to awaken 100% of the kundalini power and then move it up the spine, sushumna. Thanks, James. Sorry. Sorry, where I stopped. Move it up the spine, sushumna. Lodge it in each one of the major chakras in order to fully open and close all the chakras along the spine with this concentrated life power of consciousness, which is called Kundalini. So man can experience the higher states of consciousness, such as samadhi and cosmic consciousness, through the full rise of the Kundalini power.
I didn't understand that.
Now, this is what is being described here is true meditation. So whenever you hear Nehemiah or Dr. George King talk about meditation, they always distinguish it from what is commonly believed to be meditation, right? Meditation is a very active and intense activity that comes after one has developed and expressed some mastery over concentration and contemplation, and then which leads into meditation and mystic state called samadhi. A vehicle of consciousness. Kundalini is the primary vehicle of consciousness that the soul uses to express itself on the physical and mental realms. All mental and physical movement is a direct result of man's dormant state of Kundalini being calibrated and distributed throughout the mental and physical bodies. The dormant state of Kundalini is said to be the point where the one united conscious awareness of the soul ends and the limited state of consciousness begins, where the one, the soul consciousness, which is connected to the spirit's universal awareness, becomes the many, hidden in layers of different frequencies of consciousness. When the soul pushes the Shakti power down the Brahmic line of force called Sushumna, where pure states of consciousness resides, in an unstatic state of pure silence and stillness, this downward movement configures the Shakti power into a state of limited consciousness, brought about by the karmic pressures of the lower chakras. These karmic pressures assist the soul in bringing about the 3.5 energy configuration that becomes the vehicle of consciousness. So in the lectures, Metaphysics 101, those two lectures, it's actually 101, the Mystic Constitution of Man. That's the full title of those lectures. Nehemiah actually gives an illustration or illustrates this when he's drawing on the board. And again, it's a little difficult to follow along because the video is maybe a few seconds ahead of the audio, but you can still piece it together if you pay attention. It shows that the Shakti power being pushed down this Brahmic line of force, and he describes it as a pure vacuum. And in this pure vacuum, the Shakti power layers itself as it's being pushed down and down that Brahmic line of force, and it reveals itself as Kundalini as it reaches the base and wraps around itself into this 3.5 knot energy configuration, which becomes the vehicle of consciousness. So again, these notes that we're reading here accompany that Metaphysics 101 lecture series, and he goes into great detail. Nehemiah goes into great detail, expanding upon these points and as he said, making it simple, in simple terms to help us to understand it. The vital life force of the body. The physical body of man is animated from the vital life force within the body, which is the pranic flow of cosmic energies. Prana is the vital life force of the universe, which is absolute energy or Shakti power. Now, the source of this power is absolute or the absolute because it is that which originated from the absolute or the all in all or God. Within the human body of man, the vital life force is the Kundalini power that emits a vibrational force that regulates cosmic energies throughout the chakra levels, making it possible for the physical manifestation on several levels of existence. The tantric teachings refer to this vibrational force that's transmitted from the 3.5 energy configuration, the dormant state of Kundalini at the Muladhara chakra, as the 4 states of sound. This subtle sound vibration that's emitted from the Kundalini power, 3.5 energy configuration, moves up the spine, modifying itself at every level from the solar plexus chakra to the heart chakra and ends at the throat chakra, where it completes its transformation into gross sound. That's why the 4th state of sound is at the throat. Oh, I get it. This manifestation of gross sound signifies the embodied consciousness of man, wrapped in physical and subtle mental material with the power of Kundalini radiating through it as the regulating factor of all the pranic flow within the subtle and physical bodies and the auric envelope. When the Shakti power is pushed down the Brahmic Nadi the Brahma Nadi and the Shiva realm of existence, when the Shakti power is pushed down from the Brahma Nadi, from the Shiva realm of existence and shaped into the power of Kundalini, the soul finds its home to operate from in a limited conscious state. A limited conscious state that brings about the 3 known states of man's existence: the awakening state, the sleeping state, and the dreaming state. With these 3 states manifesting, the soul begins to experience time, space, and individuality. Could you also say ego? Is that where the soul begins to experience ego? The karmic pressures exerted from the Shakti power being placed into the Kundalini configuration has brought the consciousness of the soul to a point where it exists in a deep state of Maya Shakti consciousness. Okay. This is a state of illusion created from the Shakti formation of the Kundalini consciousness. When the Shakti power exits the Brahma Nadi, it configures itself into Kundalini, which is a 3.5 energy configuration that actually blocks the passageway back to Brahma Nadi, the inner channel of Sushumna. The blockage and the 3.5 coiled Kundalini create a split of power, which brings about the following. Number 1, a Shakti flux of power. Number 2, manifests the Maya Shakti consciousness. Number 3, Kundalini becomes the vital life force of consciousness. And 4, Kundalini initiates movement of prana. And number 5, Pingala and Ida spring forward as the vital and mental aspects of Kundalini. Something that Nimai has said to us in class, and I remember it distinctly because it really helped me to begin to wrap my mind around all these different terms and energies, and it goes back to the one energy lecture and transmission from the society, is they might have told us to not to think of them as all separate energies or entities, but it is all the one energy, one absolute, that as it takes on different configurations or aspects, or reveals different aspects of itself, a different term is applied to that either representation or to that aspect, in order to help us to understand it. So, for example, and when we're looking at the pranas, it's all one energy, but one aspect of the energy is apana, one aspect is samana, one aspect is dana, and so on and so forth. So that, thinking of it like that it's just a different configuration or an aspect or a part of that one energy expressing itself, really helped me say, okay, just to begin to understand, to begin to wrap my mind around, what these terms mean, and how it applies to me, which is again why I began, as the years went by, to appreciate the approach that Nehemiah takes to these teachings, as in the mystic constitution of men, because then in taking all of these ideas and applying it to my own existence, it helped me to better understand it. So these pranas that move through different areas of the aura and attribute to these different functions, I can understand it because I know that this type of prana, is in the head and the extremities. This type of prana is in the chest. This type of prana is in the abdominal. This type of prana moves up and down the spine. This type of prana moves up and down to the other section of the spine, and then further and further as we go out into the cosmos. So usually when we're looking at the Nehemiah's lectures and teachings, it's always under the what does he call it? The methodology of the mystic constitution. So take these ideas, and when we're talking about Kundalini, Shiva, Shakti, and so forth, ask the question, how does this apply to me, in that, where am I represented in this? Where do I exist in this, all this theory, all these ideas, and which may be difficult to understand? And you remember that it is all just one energy, that same energy that creates galaxies, that animates stars, and gives life to all the life forms across the universe, is the same energy that is allowing me to blink, to talk, to walk, to think, to exist. So that really helped me to begin to wrap my mind around, these concepts, and hopefully they'll help you as well. Next, we'll look at Laya Yoga. This is the yoga, excuse me, that brings about the dissolution of basic consciousness and the merging of the soul with the light of the spirit. It is where the student of yoga learns to use intense levels of concentration and contemplation to move his or her consciousness into deep, elevated states of meditation. While in meditation, the student of yoga moves the Kundalini consciousness up through Sushumna and opens each major chakra along the spine, which assists man in dissolving the basic consciousness of that level and opens the soul's consciousness to higher levels of awareness. Laya yoga is used to fully develop the chakras with the calibration and discharge of the Kundalini power and fully awaken and deposit it into each chakra in order to be able to register higher aspects of mind substance and experience consciousness in a super conscious mind state, which is described as deep meditation, samadhi, and cosmic consciousness. Now, a question you could have here is, okay, well, why? Why would we want to dissolve consciousness? And in the Metaphysical Lecture series, near my Metaphysics 101 series, Nehemiah makes a point of defining consciousness. And the way that he defines consciousness in that series is limitation. Consciousness is limitation. So as the soul pushes this Shakti power further down the Brahma Nadi, as it moves through the different realms, it takes on greater and greater limitation. And those limitations are consciousness. So in Laya Yoga, when we awaken that full power of Kundalini and we move it back, push it back up the Brahman, up Sushumna, we are dissolving those levels of consciousness, allowing us to experience higher and higher levels of mind or aspects of mind, and greater and greater levels of consciousness until we reach a deep meditation or samadhi, as is cosmic consciousness. And as those members of the society will know that cosmic consciousness is one of the freedoms. In fact, it is a freedom that comes after bravery, love, service, and so on. Laya yoga is from the Sanskrit word laya, meaning melting, dissolution, disappearance, and from the verbal root li, to dissolve, disintegrate, and vanish away. A point of disappearance, a 0 point, or a point in substance where every differentiation has temporarily ceased, also the ultimate quiescent state, the nirvana of the seventh principle, the point at which primordial substance begins to differentiate and gives birth to the universe. Matter in the Laya state is in its eternal and normal condition. When differentiated, it is in an abnormal state, a phenomenon becoming a transitory illusion when perceived by the senses. A Laya center is the mystical point where a thing disappears from one plane and passes onwards to reappear on another plane. It is that point or spot, any point or spot in space, which, owing to karmic law, suddenly becomes the center of active life, first on a higher plane and later descending into manifestation through and by the layer centers of the lower planes. In one sense, a layer center may be conceived of as a canal, a channel through which the vitality of the superior spheres pours down into and inspires in-breaths into the lower planes or states of matter, or rather of substance. All right, so think about the Bhuttas as they come from the central sun, through the central sun, they're conditioned out into the galaxy, then they're taken in by the stars, or for example, our sun, and then is conditioned by the sun, and then that conditioned energy is then pushed out the sun, is then taken in by the planets, which then condition that energy and then radiate that conditioned energy onto the light streams on that planet. So for example, for the Mother Earth, the energy conditions it and then pushes it out so that we and the other light streams upon Earth can take in that energy and use it to help us exist, basically. So in a similar way, here is that great energy going down a layer center for the lower planes, being conditioned out and then pushed back out, and so on and so forth. Is that correct? Is it a good illustration?
Yes, it's to the point. Remember, when you merge with the Shiva power, you have the power to create and destroy.
Right.
So in simple language, that's what you're doing. You have to dissolve consciousness in order to connect to the one consciousness, which is the absolute, which is God.
Finally, a layer center is the point where substance becomes homogeneous. Any layer center, therefore, of necessity, exists in and on the critical line or stage dividing one plane from another. Any hierarchy, therefore, contains within itself a number of layer centers. The monad of a human being enters into manifested life through a solar layer center, which is the Atman, or universal spirit. Likewise, the Atmic plane of any being contains such a layer center through which pour the forces from above. Dimensions or positions in space have nothing to do with it, because a layer center is not of a physical and material nature. It is the disappearing point for all things below it, and the entering point for all things above it. For any one particular entity, be it an atom, a sun, a planet, or a human being. In speaking of the monad, we must not confuse it with the layer center, the neutral center, in matter or substance, through which consciousness passes, and the center of that consciousness is the monad. A neutral center is, in one aspect, the limiting point of any given set of senses. Thus, imagine two consecutive planes of matter as already formed, each of these corresponding to an appropriate set of perceptive organs. We are forced to admit that between these two planes of matter, an incessant circulation takes place. And if we follow the atoms and molecules of, say, the lower in their transformation upwards, these will come to a point where they pass altogether beyond the range of the faculties we are using on the lower plane. In fact, to us, the matter of the lower plane there vanishes from our perception into nothing, or rather, it passes on to the higher plane, and the state of matter corresponding to such a point of transition must certainly possess special and not readily discoverable particles. You experience
So-
something. Oh, sorry, no, go ahead.
So you see here where I note SD.
Yes.
Yeah, that's secret doctrines.
Okay. Yeah.
So this way, this where I was taking notes from the secret doctrines when I was giving this class.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
OG and fun are the different texts as well. Like your OG 84-5 and fun 30-5. Those are different texts as well. So do we experience something like this when we project and move from plane to plane?
It's the same principle in a sense, and the first thing you'll notice when you gain control over astral or etheric projection, that when you go to these planes, there's no graveyards.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There's monuments marking an event, but there's no graveyards because the energy, the full energy of that individual consciousness is transition with them to the next plane.
Mm-hmm.
You know, now the deviant configuration of that person is there because of their Akashic records, but that person is not there. They leave nothing behind. And they move it to either the next realm up or if they go into the next realm down, then they take it with them downwards.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no massive graveyards the way it is here on the physical plane.
Mm-hmm.
So when you achieve the higher states of yoga, you can dissolve the consciousness of certain layers of your consciousness. You can dissolve that
Mm-hmm.
and move it up to the higher levels of consciousness, so that you can understand things unadulterated. I mean, just you could just understand it without all this opposition and craziness and politics and false religions, and you just clearly see it for what it is, because you're not being bogged down by the collective samskaras of your past, because you have burnt them up, and now you can clearly see things as they are, not as the cravings of your body or mind want them to be. And that's the difference.
Okay. Any questions? I can't really see the chat window on Zoom when I'm sharing a page, but if you do have questions, use the raise hand feature or type give me notification. Questions or comments on YouTube? Okay. All right, so we'll move into Tantra, the 11th yoga and final yoga in our study. Tantra yoga is a system of yoga techniques that looms or interlaces several major forms of yoga together in order to intensify the rise of consciousness, or Kundalini. It is said that Tantra knowledge, Sastra, is techniques used to bring about a mantric balance within the subtle and physical bodies. Tantra and mantra are one and the same science in regards to the mystic constitution of man. Mantra represents the 50 sound vibrations released by the soul in order to build the complex, subtle, and gross body machines that locks portions of its consciousness into a pattern of operational karmic segments of consciousness that work through countless incarnations before it blends back together as a subtle and gross experienced consciousness. Man's consciousness operates through the chakras. The 3 lower chakras along the spine expresses basic passions and emotional based consciousness that operates on the physical and astral realms. The chakras that operate above the solar plexus chakra express higher states of consciousness, free from emotions and basic passions. Tantra Sastra and Tantra Yoga techniques work to raise the embodied consciousness of man from the lower chakras to the higher chakras by purifying the nadis and auric fields of man so that he can create clear and free flow of subtle pranas through the nadi pathways consciously, especially the Sushumna nadi. The purification of the nadi pathways make it possible for man with the ability of concentration and contemplation to bring about the power of meditation so he can untie the 3.5 knots called Kundalini, the soul's vehicle of consciousness, and raise it up to each chakra above the base of the spine chakra, Muladhara chakra, and fully activate them with the power of Kundalini, allowing man's soul to be bathed in the greater and more intense light of the spirit as it moves from one higher chakra to the next higher chakra along the spinal column. The following are the preceding yoga systems are techniques adopted by the Tantra yoga system in order to bring about the higher states of consciousness. All right, so that we just finished reading were the notes, and I do believe there were, I think there's more to this document, but that's good to get us started.
Yeah, I mean to cut you off. So go back to the diagrams. There's a diagram because I kind of changed this around in order so it can be understood a little bit better. Go back to the
collection of diagrams.
Yeah, there was one that we had the 12 yogas in there, right?
I think
because later on, in order for me to convey it to help you all understand. Yeah, here. Yeah.
No, this one. This is one of them. You have a more recent one than this one where it goes into.
Yeah, but let's go back here. There's actually 12 there, really. We don't name the tantra, but the tantra makes it 12 because the system is a tantra system. It's actually a tantra mantra sastra system.
Mhm.
And so the way it really works is that from the inner, you have the Nana Yoga that educates you in the laws, in the divine laws of creation, which is divine laws of God, which is Karma Yoga. And then that leads you to Bhatha Yoga, because you realize that everyone is an aspect of God. So you have to devote yourself to God and devote yourself to service to everyone. And then that leads you to the understanding that you need to prepare the temple of God, which is on this plane, which is the physical body, the astral body, and the etheric body, and the mind, and the mental body. And then that leads you to Raja Yoga, which gives you the principles of the mental body. And Raja Yoga encompasses the next one, which is pranayama, which is the key to all yogas, to using all yogas. And that leads you to mantra yoga, which is the creative sound that God used. That's the science, the ancient science that behind the power of sound, which God used to bring creation or bring life into. Because mantra gives you the secrets of speaking life into anything. And then from mantra gives you the correct position and motion of all things once you speak it into being, and that's mudra yoga. And then mudra yoga leads you to kriya yoga. And kriya yoga is a system, a divine system of how you handle your life, where you mold all these things into order. And then all of that leads you to tantra yoga, because you use all these yogas in tantra in order to awaken the power of kundalini yoga. And then from kundalini yoga, it leads you into layer yoga, which is the dissolution of consciousness into the somatic levels of mind. And then once you have conquered that, then you ascend. Because after many lifetimes of practicing this, you'll be able to break the body down and pull the body back together and ascend and become a Jesus, a Buddha, a Sri Krishna one day, Laose, a Moses or Enoch, all these great cosmic masters who ascended, Lahiri Mase, Sri Yukteswar, Sankachara, all these were great cosmic masters or people who ascended, who came here and ascended. So that's the science behind all of this. And when you look at it like this, you can go back and study it and get more out of it. Go ahead, Dwayne.
Yes, do we have any further questions? So that encompasses the notes on the Metaphysics 101 Mystic Constitution of Man, and that accompanies the lecture series in the playlist on our YouTube channel. Next time I'll present, we'll go through excerpts of or I'll pull quotes from the Metaphysics 101 videos, and additionally present some more diagrams that go along with the material. I'll also upload the transcript as I'm working on it. It's a slow process, but once I finish it, I'll put it into the shared folder so you can use that to go along with the Metaphysics 101 videos. And that should help in some ways to alleviate the error that's there when the audio It's a few seconds behind the video, but it's still manageable. You can still follow the information. And then we'll continue on with others series, namely the beginners, metaphysics for beginners, the video series there. And we'll also look at the Tantra video series there. Those are the earlier videos. All right, so do we have any final questions or comments before we close out today's open discussion session?
Dwayne, we had a terminology type
We do.
document that we created for this too, I think.
Yes, we did. It may be difficult to access because there is a metaphysical dictionary terminology that we created and had in the files section of MeetUp. But I know since MeetUp switched over to their new format, it's difficult to find the file section. So I will upload that.
But I have one, I think. I
one?
may still have it in my one of my hard drives.
I have a copy of it too. I'm saying I'll upload it to the shared folder so everyone can access it easier that way. And there's also, if you go to our Mystic Knowledge website, there is like an encyclopedia or a dictionary, yoga dictionary encyclopedia that's available as well. I forgot the author of that one. I can see his face, but his name's not coming to mind. But it's there. If you go to a Mystic Knowledge website, under one of the e-library tabs, you'll see Yoga Encyclopedia, I think it is. You'll be able to use that to help you along as well. And especially in the earlier days, like decades ago, although Nehemiah does use a lot of Sanskrit terms, but he also explains it. But if you can have the dictionary or the term book with you as you're listening to the lectures or reviewing the notes, it'll help you understand the information a lot more. All right. All right, so if there's no further questions, let us close out today's session through reciting the Lord's Prayer. The New Lord's Prayer. O divine and wondrous Spirit, O everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up and in doing so, receive to their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. Oh, great peace, great peace, great peace. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing. Granted energy to sing on forever and forever. All right, thank you very much, everyone, for your attendance and your participation, your questions, your comments. I appreciate all of them. Remember to, when you have the opportunity, review the Metaphysics 101, Mystical Solution to Man lecture series. You go to YouTube under videos and playlists, you'll see that it was given a little over 10 years ago, but we're going to review those and several other of the earlier lectures in the upcoming weeks and months, as well as continue to field your questions and comments. So thank you very much, everyone, and we will see you next week. If not next week, then the week after.
Thank you, everybody. Thank
Take
you.
care.